Welcome to the Nonsense in the Chaos. I'm your host, Jolie Rose. I'm ever so excited to welcome my special guest, Nessi Gomes, to the show. We haven't met in person yet. I have been introduced to her via connections to do with the pilgrimage with our friend Ben Christie, who we mentioned in the podcast. And she's over there on the Big Rock, which is not far away. And we were trying to meet up before she headed off, which you'll hear all about her adventures in the interview. But I'm going to be meeting her and I'm going to be hanging out with her real soon. And we just hit it off hugely in the chat. It was lovely. We've got lots of mutual friends. And yeah, I've been listening to her music for ages. And what brilliant music she makes. It's just such an honour. And I did her course just before recording this interview and yeah, blew me away. So emotional. I have a real block when it comes to singing, where even if before the words of the sentence you're going to sing in public have time to go through my ears and enter my conscious mind, my body is already in tears. So whatever the reaction is to that is so deep that it's physical, it's beyond even my thinking. And so that's why I've always had a feeling that it's from a past life, because it feels so genetically or like physically held. And I've nearly drowned in this life 6 times. Let's see if I can remember them all. I ran into a pond when I was 5 chasing after ducklings, and it was a man-made pond with a sudden massive drop that would have meant I would have just disappeared. Yeah, and I was tiny. I was like 4 or 5 years old. Then the second time I lay back in a dinghy and was watching the clouds. And then when I sat upright, the shoreline was a tiny, tiny little line in the distance. And I was about 8. And luckily my first cousin had seen, who was 7 years older than me. And he'd swam out to get me, and together we had to swim with all our might against the tide to get back to shore, but we managed it. But it was touch and go and it was exhausting. We had to take it in turns to rest because it took so long for us to get back. So that was scary. It was a wave machine at Sudbury swimming pool where it just got a bit out of control. I was too deep and there was too many people in there, and the lifeguard had to pull me out because he could see that I was starting to struggle. Then next to a load of surfers on Bondi Beach, I got rolled by a wave and was running out of air and I was about to swallow water when a surfer stuck his hand in and grabbed me and pulled me up out of the water, luckily. Then there was the main one, which was when I was at Kentwell Hall Tudor reenactment, where I jumped in the fish pond and my shift went up over my head and pulled me under, and I got pulled out by a visitor. But I saw an old man in Tudor costume jump in to save me in front of me. And yeah, they never existed. Then that led to someone saying to me, "You've made a connection with the spirit world, you've had a near-death experience, you're on the shamanic path." I was like, well, that's very cool. And that's what got me into Jonathan Kay and Fooling and the world that I've then explored. It was all inspired by the beekeeper who was a pagan coming up and telling me that I was a shaman when I was a 13-year-old Nirvana fan. And then the last time was, I was about to say recently, but actually it was probably 2012, so not that recently. I went scuba diving in Cuba and steam from my breathing had clouded up my mask. And instead of opening it and letting a bit of water in and then pushing it out, which I knew how to do that, I went to the surface and took the mask off, and then instantly the waves started going up my nose. And then I took the mouth thing out because I was just getting water going up my nose. And I took the mouth thing out, and then it just meant my hands were full and I hadn't inflated my life jacket. So I had these really heavy oxygen tanks on my back pulling me under whilst I was getting hit in the face with waves, and I didn't have any hands to put the mask and the thing back in my mouth. Luckily, my ex-husband had seen me go up to the surface and grabbed me and held on to me whilst I sorted myself out. And we went back down underwater and our scuba diving party had disappeared. They were gone. So we were just at sea, not visible of the shoreline or boats or anything, just in the sea on our own. Luckily, my ex-husband had the wherewithal to say, we stay here. And I just nearly drowned. So I was totally in the midst of a panic attack whilst underwater, whilst realising that we'd been left. And if I'd been on my own, I would have just randomly started swimming around. But luckily, he made us stay where we were, which was really logical and saved us. And luckily after, I don't know how long, it was a long time, but they did come back and find us. Bloody scary. So I decided to move to an island in the middle of the sea because obviously that's the safest thing I could possibly do. Someone who nearly drowns all the time. But it also, like, I was born with asthma, and asthma's linked to grief. And there's just something about all of it where it feels like maybe I was ducked in a previous life or some kind of something. Yeah. And it does very much unlock emotional angst in me when I sing. And before, like I say, before I even hear the words "you're going to sing in public," I just burst into tears. There's something about it. And yet I use my voice loads. I'm a performer, I'm an actress, I do podcasts, I write. So I'm not scared of using my voice. But there is some kind of wound, and I refer to that as the witch wound, which I talk about with Nessi. So without further delay, I want to get on with this because she's amazing and we have so much to talk about, and I can't wait to share it with you. So here is the fabulous and gorgeous Nessi Gomes. Whereabouts are you at the moment?
I'm in Guernsey.
Oh, you are?
I'm in, I live down Mull and Wet. I don't know if you know Guernsey much.
Not that well.
Mull and Wet is a really beautiful part of the island. It's very witchy.
Is it?
It's where they have this tea room called the Renoir Tea Rooms down the bottom. It's a really beautiful part of the island. It's so special.
And is it north, south, east or west?
South.
Oh.
I'm rubbish with all that kind of stuff.
But it's not in St. Peter Port, it's further down.
It's 5 minutes away from St. Peter Port.
Okay.
It's super close.
Okay.
Which is great.
Yeah.
So I'm here. I'm going to LA tomorrow.
Amazing.
I'm flying for a few days and then back on Monday. I have a little bit of time, so it's great.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate you doing this.
Oh, babe.
What are you doing in LA?
So there's this guy called Charlie Goldsmith, and he contacted me, I don't know, it was really quite recently, probably 6 weeks ago. He contacted me via Instagram saying that he really loved my music and that he does a lot of healing work and he would love to invite me to join him for one of his events. I was a little bit skeptical in the beginning because I was like, okay, I'm not sure. And then Lino, my husband, he checked into it. He's, no, this guy's legit. And he's a proper healer, dude. Like he's working with so many people, and he's got like a US TV series called The Healer, where they follow him around, and he's working with all sorts, from children to older people dealing with chronic physical pain. He's literally putting his hands on them and managing to support and heal their issues, which is pretty amazing. I've always been a bit skeptical of all that stuff, but it seems legit. And he's a really nice guy. I'm going over to LA. He's got this event on the 15th. There's 300 people. It's like a large group meditation healing event. And I'm playing for about an hour.
Oh, wow.
He's bringing a few people up. I don't know if I'm playing when he's working on them or... But he looks super ordinary. He doesn't have any flashy gear, and he's Australian, but he lives in LA. I've never done anything like that before, so it feels really exciting. I've been to LA a few times, actually, but the last time I was there, I think it was in 2019 when my daughter was 4 or 5 months old, and I had a gig in Hollywood in some really cool little venue. And she was asleep in my guitar case. I've actually got photos of that, and it was very sweet. But it was like this tiny little kind of, I think it was like 200 people in this like venue, live music venue. Very cool though, like really nice place. But I think that's the last time I've been there. I can't remember. But I do really like the States. There's a good vibe there.
Yeah, it's positive, isn't it? It's got a positive,
yeah,
which we're lacking a bit over here.
Yeah, I do like the character, and I like all that stuff. And they have amazing little cafes. It's like being in a movie when you go there.
Yes, definitely.
Like, I know not all of America's like that. I'm sure there's parts that are just really dark and fucked up or whatever. But when I went to LA, I think I went to Venice, and I remember walking down the street, and it was just, I felt like I'd taken acid or something because everything seems so animated.
Yeah.
But I've got so many American friends and I really love them. They've got something about them.
I spent some time in New Orleans, which I absolutely loved. New Orleans was amazing, and there's just incredible music coming out of the bars. It's amazing. It is. It's just such.
Yeah.
People don't do small talk. They'll just be like, "So blonde, yeah." And you're like,
They're just funny. Like,
Yeah.
you just get some proper characters out there. Do you know what I
"Yeah,
mean?
totally."
And back in the day, like a very long time ago, I spent some months working there legally, like trimming ganja,
Brilliant.
which I was really shit at, thank God. But yeah, I didn't do very good at that job. But again, and that was like Santa Cruz.
Yes.
I don't know if you've ever
I've
been.
I've been there, and I
Yeah.
knew about that
And
job that
that's-
you could do as well. I was like, "Oh, that sounds
yeah,
cool."
yeah, yeah. I have a soft spot for America. I know America's vast, but at least the places that I've been to, I've really enjoyed it. And yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Let's see how it all goes
Yeah,
when I
amazing.
get there.
And so you're still based in Guernsey. Talk about your Guernsey life, like how you grew up there and then left from there to, have you lived elsewhere, or kind of tell us a bit about your story?
So my family originally from Madeira,
Mhm.
and they immigrated to Guernsey probably in the 60s. So I was born and raised here. And to be honest, when I grew up here, I actually found it really challenging. I guess because people didn't travel as much. It wasn't like it is now, where people are way more open minded and educated. And I just remember being at school. And I guess whatever your situation is as a kid, you probably get shit for it. Do you know what I mean? Growing up here was really challenging because being Portuguese, even though I was born here, I always felt like I didn't belong here. I always felt like something was not right with me. And because I guess there was a lot more discrimination and racism back then. And maybe that still exists, but I don't think it's as bad. And I love that Guernsey's really cosmopolitan these days. We have a lot of people from Africa here. We've got a growing community of Filipinos, and so, I guess because of Brexit and everything. But I love how Guernsey's become really diverse culturally. I was born here, and then, at one point, because you're an island kid, you want to get off the rock, do you know what I mean? So I went traveling from the age of 18, 19 for a few years to Asia. It was either go to university or go traveling. When I was about 23, 24, I decided to study at Derby University, and I studied like healing arts. So I did creative expressive therapies for 3 years. I got into music when I was about 14. And it wasn't because I wanted to be a professional singer. It was more like, I think I might have mentioned this a little bit in the Vocal Odyssey, that music was my way to heal myself. That was what I was really fascinated with.
Mhm.
And so I left Guernsey for some years. I mean, I was back in the summer and holidays, but I was living in the UK for 3 years. And then I came back after uni, was here for a couple more years, and then I decided to travel again when I was 28 and went to South America, and then, which is an amazing kind of part of the world, super mystical and witchy. And then I ended up living in Costa Rica for 3 years, where I met my husband.
Yeah, right.
I was living in a community called Pachamama, which is a very kind of alternative community. Like, I hate all these buzzwords, but it was like a spiritual community.
Mm.
Yoga, medicine ceremonies, body cleansing, therapy workshops, meditation and silent retreats. It was that kind of culture there. I was there for 3 years. My husband was there for like 12 years. He said, I think it's time to move and leave. So we came back to England. We didn't really know where we were going to settle. But then when I got pregnant with my daughter in 2019,
Mhm.
I said to Lena, I don't want to be nomadic anymore. I really need a base, especially being pregnant, and I want to be close to my family. And so it felt really important. I've seen so much, and I've traveled a lot with the music to many different places in the world. And I just love being an island girl. Every time I set foot back home, the moment I get off the plane, I just feel like my whole nervous system just goes, oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
At least for now, I don't see myself living anywhere else. And I've been really blessed to see so many different parts of the world. But I just love it here. I guess because my family is still here. And I think bringing up a kid here is really great as well, because it's so safe and quiet, and pace of life is different and everything's on your doorstep. And when I lived in London back in 2016, that's when I was recording my album. I lived there for like a year and a half, and it was fun in the beginning because it's a novelty and London's really juicy. But long term, God, I think it would just eat me alive. It's just too much. But yeah, so I've lived in different places, but Guernsey's really, I just feel like a proper island girl.
I even have it coming from Guernsey to Sark. I get off the boat in Sark and I'm like, wow, it's really funny.
Sark is even slower, isn't it? It's like you don't even have cars there.
Yeah, it's mad. I feel busy here. It's very community-based busyness. We're always up to something.
But that's amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
That's also, like, I've always been curious about people living in Sark. We came over to Sark back in the summer, and it was Leno's first time going there. I just think it's so cute. I love it. I even thought maybe I might just pop over to Sark for a week and just go on a little retreat with myself.
I think it's perfect.
When I'm home, I have so many distractions. I've got my kids. I'm such a procrastinator, and I love being in my house and finding things to do and tidy and clean and decorate. It can really pull me out of doing what I need to do, which is write a new album. That's where I'm at right now.
Yeah.
I keep having these little moments. Go to Sark. Just go to Sark. It's really close.
It is.
You jump on a boat and like just rent somewhere for a week and take your guitar and writing stuff. Be with yourself. Turn off the Wi-Fi, you know.
Yeah.
I think it could be a good place to do that.
I think it's perfect. And for writing, because I write books and I do exactly that, especially 2 weeks. I can carry on editing the book and working on it afterwards, but I have to take myself away and just have that 2 weeks where I focus and just get properly in there.
Yeah.
So that I, just get the voice and get it going, and then I can work on it a bit more. But yeah, well, how did the music career take off? The moment where you're like, oh my, this is actually happening.
So I got into music at a young age, probably around about 14, 15. Actually, I started with poetry. That's how I started. I was writing a lot. I wasn't singing or anything like that. And then back then, people didn't have social media and Instagram and Snapchat and all that kind of stuff. I just remember a lot of friends being in bands. And like at the weekend, people will be like having like band practice in their garages. A friend of mine, he was in a band and he knew I was writing poetry and he wants to use it for his like band setup. And then he said, look, I know you don't do any singing, but if you could sing your songs, give it a try. Anyway, I got into it from there and fell in love with it. I just remember it making me feel so good. And I wasn't even good at it. I was all right, considering I had no practice or training or any musical background or knowledge. That really ignited a big passion. For many years, I was experimenting and I was in many different bands. I was in a funk band for 5 years in Guernsey called Dave.
Oh, I've heard of Dave. Is that still going?
I know that they probably do some gigs here and there, but I used to play. So we were solid 5 years. So I probably joined them when I was 19. We did so many types of gigs and we were getting booked up for all sorts of wedding events and playing in pubs. It was really fun because I was in all these grungy emo bands beforehand, which I loved. What I really loved about the funk music was that it got everybody dancing. It was fun and it was playful and we were having such a laugh with it. Carefree little rascals.
Do you think, because the Guernsey music scene's pretty mega, really, isn't it? I'm very impressed with it.
I think it's amazing, and I think we're very blessed over here to have such a rich music culture. I used to play a lot at the Vale fairs, which is still going, which is amazing. And what I love about that, or just in general in Guernsey, is like there's so many different eclectic types of genres. It's a real mixture. And I think that can be such a great influence as an artist, that you're not just stuck to one kind of genre, like you can really play around with them. I think we're very lucky here. And it was such a great starting point for me because I did my first gig when I was like 15 at Christie's Bistro Cafe Bar. And I was lying about my age back then because I wanted to obviously get a gig. I mean, I was singing all these really cheesy covers like Lady in Red and shit. It was just a great platform, and we're very blessed because everything's on your doorstep. Do you know what I mean? I don't know what that's like in the UK. I guess it's a bit harder if you're trying to...
Yeah, I grew up in Essex, and in Essex we used to sit around and jam. So people would sit in the garage and jam with each other, and we'd all hang out and stuff. But there wasn't any drive for us to go out and perform in public. There was a metal grunge venue that was in the next town that was half an hour drive away. And that's where anyone who got into a band went to. But it was all grunge. Everyone, if anyone was playing in a band, they were playing grunge. It was the 90s. But there wasn't the eclecticness. It wasn't as vibrant. And in Brighton, where you'd expect it to be pretty thriving, we had friends who were in bands and were musicians, but they'd go off to practice and then they'd have a gig and we'd go watch them. But it wasn't around us. And whenever I go to like South America or anywhere like that, where it's so much more culturally just part of everyday life to just sing and make music, I feel like in the UK, everything has to be polished and perfect before you present it to anybody. And that's the same with like whatever it is, you have to be perfect and commodifiable before you'll show it to anyone. Whereas, it feels like Guernsey feels a lot more European and South American in its absolute freedom to do stuff.
Absolutely. And I think I'm so grateful that I was able to grow as an artist here because it's really shaped me and supported my development. I did Battle of the Bands a few weeks ago. I was one of the judges. And it's just incredible to see all this young talent. It's really inspiring and so beautiful to see that it's still really alive and present here. My cousin lives in Jersey, and maybe I'm wrong in saying this. I'm pretty sure he said the music scene in Guernsey is way better than Jersey. It's a lot more vibrant. There's more venues to play in Guernsey than there are in Jersey, which I was always really surprised about because I just assumed with Jersey being that bit bigger that they would have the same kind of culture, but apparently not. My cousin loves coming over for Vale Airfare or doing gigs at the Delarue or whatever, you know. That was kind of like my foundation. When I went to uni, I was learning about music therapy, but a lot of what I was doing in that course was improvisation, which was really another branch to my tree because all the music I had been doing was covers, and I had experimented a little bit with writing my own songs, but university gave me another foundation. That was how to find my own voice. When I was in a funk band, I remembered that it's really natural when you're younger and developing as an artist that you're still in the phase of imitating. I think that's healthy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But there was a point where it's like, I want to find my voice. Like, where is my voice and how does she express herself and what are the songs that she wants to sing? So university, that course really helped me explore that. Yeah, so then I went to uni. I always just imagined music was going to be like a hobby. I did get paid for the gigs that I did in Guernsey, but nothing that I could make a living out of. And then it was when I went to Costa Rica. I'd been traveling already for a year until I went to Costa Rica. And when I ended up living there in this community, it was the first time that I guess, experimented with plant medicines, because that was an element of Pachamama. Like, we would have a lot of ceremonies, whether they were like ayahuasca ceremonies or anything. And this was like 15 years ago. I came across all that stuff in Peru, but I was like, I don't know if I really want to sit down with some random person that I don't know taking psychedelics. Do you know what I mean? I was intrigued, but I wasn't really pulled at that point. But when I ended up going to Pachamama, I didn't know that they did ceremonies there. I signed up just for a 5-week work exchange program. And then I ended up meeting my husband on the final week when I was meant to leave, which is typical, isn't it? I remember when I did my first ayahuasca ceremony, it blew my mind and my creativity. It influenced my art in such a profound way, even guiding me with how to express my voice. I had been writing a lot of songs during that time. When it came to leave my husband was like, okay, I think our story here has come to an end. He'd been there already like 12, 13 years. We left with the vision of making an album from all the songs. I came back to London and we did a crowdfunding campaign, and I raised like $50,000 for the album. Yeah, which is pretty mad. Like that for me, that was the first sign that I was like, okay, I think I'm doing something right here. Like it was a sign from existence. Because I had a lot of resistance in the beginning, mainly because I didn't believe in myself and I felt like such a, what's the word? When somebody feels like an imposter.
Imposter syndrome, yeah.
Yeah, it was so intense during that period when I was making the album and the songs. It was way more than just making an album. It was like burning all these old stories that I'd carried with me all my life through the process of making an album. I had to face these intense shadows of myself. There was a rebirth in that process. And then I made this album and I put it out in 2016. It came out and did its thing. I think a lot of people connected to it in the medicine kind of ceremonial world. A lot of people were playing this album during ceremonies. A lot of people discovered my music through that. And then I think what made it even bigger was during COVID, because obviously COVID was pretty rubbish for us because we couldn't travel and we couldn't gather and I couldn't tour and I couldn't do any gigs and couldn't do anything. And I know a lot of people were in similar situations where their work got really affected. But because people were indoors, more people were listening to music than normal. Yeah, my numbers doubled during COVID.
I think that's when I discovered you. I'm pretty sure that's when I found you as well. I knew your music before I knew who you were. So when people were like, oh yeah, Nessi Gomes lives in Guernsey, I checked who you were and listened to me and I was like, oh, I've got loads of your music on my playlists. I've been listening to you for ages. But yeah, it was definitely lockdown when I'd been hearing you already, but it's when I sort of noticed and started to remember the songs and sing along to them and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, so it's done its own thing. I made an album and it's the first album I've ever made. For me, when I did it, I was like, that it was because it was such a intense process for myself. I just felt like I'd already succeeded in the fact that I made it.
Yeah.
And then everything else that followed, it went on its own little journey. And I feel really grateful and blessed that it was listened to by so many people and people resonated with it. That was also one of the things that people shared with me, getting private messages and people sharing that my songs made them feel like they gave them permission to feel what they felt, because my songs is really, I guess they're very raw and they're not sugar-coated and ultra positive, fluffy, spiritual stuff. I'm a spiritual person, but I don't like to wave that flag around. It feels like a really private relationship. I feel very touched to know that my songs were companions to people during difficult moments in their life, because that's where a lot of these songs came from.
You've got so much feeling in your songs. And it's something that I used to love about Nirvana. Like, they wouldn't literally say stuff that made sense, but they captured a feeling. Yeah. And as an angsty teenager, you could just let rip and just go crazy in your living room to this song that didn't really make any sense. And it's the same with your music, where it's like, it's not necessarily about the, you know, some storyline lyrics. It's that you're just absolutely immersed in that feeling and it's capturing how you feel. And it does, yeah, I just feel like I'm singing to the wilderness, or I'm singing to the wild part of myself, or, yeah, it's liberating.
I love that.
Which is probably why it was so powerful in lockdown, because we weren't able to be outside and it gave us that freedom to connect with that part of ourselves when we were trapped indoors.
Yeah, I think for me, feeling is the first ingredient. I think I've got one song called Falling Birds on my album, and I have no clue what it's about. When I started writing that song, it was after I was immersed in a 10-day silent retreat. I was just playing the guitar and it got into this trance-like state, and then literally just visions and imagery was coming, and I was just singing what was revealing itself. And I don't really know. Maybe there's little lines that I can associate with and be like, I know what that's about. I don't know what it's about as a whole song, but I love how it feels and I love the journey of that song. But feeling is really, I think also because growing up and listening to a lot of Portuguese folk music, my grandmother loved fado music, which is typical Portuguese folk music. And it's all about feeling. It's all about the emotion and the nostalgia. And even though I'm not singing traditional fado music, I feel like that DNA is definitely embedded in my music. When I have played some concerts, people that are familiar with that type of music recognize it in mine. And when people come to me and say, oh, I really hear the fado in your music, I find that such a compliment because it's really like my lineage and my DNA. It feels really special.
I think a lot of things that I do or talk about with people come back to the land. It seems like the land is so key and we're so separated from it in the world that we live in. We don't realise how much it does influence us and how important it is to it's where our soul has come from. You know, it's actually Guernsey as well, but we're part of the land that we're born from. Shall we do a card?
Absolutely. Let's do a card.
Excellent. So there might be a bit of a delay, so I'll try and get the card that you want, but if I go like this, you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
Right. So this is disappointment. So where have you felt disappointment in your life? Where has that come up?
Hey, getting right in there. Disappointment. Oh, I think for me, disappointment. I felt a lot of disappointment last year. I went through something really intense with my family. We went through a big tragedy. It was in the news and everything was very public about it. Not about my family specifically, but I think as an artist, there's a lot of pressure. People think because you have a platform that you should automatically be raising your voice. And because this particular thing had affected me so personally, it was very hard to meet my voice. It was actually the first time that I found myself in a place where I felt like my voice had gone silent. It was confronting because of the work that I do with the voice and because I'm a musician. This was always my safe space. I think there was a lot of pressure from the outside world, having certain expectations of me as an artist and how I should put my voice out there. And I guess that made me feel disappointed. There is a lot of emphasis on raising your voice. It's tricky. It's a tricky thing. And we have to honor people in where they're at in their life. And we never know what journey people are going through. Some people have more of a privilege to raise their voice than others. And I chose to not raise my voice as a way to protect my family. But yeah, I felt a lot of disappointment last year in that sense. So disappointment has been really big thing in my life in the last year and a half.
I'm feeling a lot with global stuff, and because I'm in the chief police here, I'm in the government here, and something's been happening where I feel like there's a microcosm of the macro going on, and there's like false news, fake news and things happening where I feel like I need to say something and I need to speak up. But as soon as I do, it makes us a target, and it will make me and my husband a target. And then at the same time, I'm like, but if I can't do this in the micro, then how am I meant to do anything in the macro? And I want to use my voice and I want to speak up. How am I meant to do anything in the macro? And I want to use my voice and I want to speak up. But there is I feel like the witch wound, feeling that we are silenced and that it's scary to speak out. And there's something that I have experienced myself where I kind of got witch hunted years ago, ironically at a Tudor reenactment. So it felt very witchy, where I realised that I wasn't saying that these people were necessarily evil, but evil was proactive. If people are trying to mess with you, then they're actively doing it. They're whispering in people's ears, they're dropping poison into people's ears, they're stroking people's egos, like they're manipulating the situation. And if you're not bothered, or, you know, if you're just going about your everyday life being a normal person, you're not doing any of that. And so you realise that people have been turned or situations suddenly occurred, and you see how a witch craze could suddenly happen because someone said that's what's going on. The more you try and defend yourself, the more it seems untrue. And it was just really shocking to experience that. And I see it brewing here. I can see bullying and things happening. I know that I need to speak up, but as soon as I do, it puts us in the firing line, and that's really scary.
And I think that's the thing as well. Like, we've lost this ability to just be able to communicate, having a safe space to use our voice, because there's always this encouragement, like, yeah, use your voice, speak up, and then you will get demonized if you do use your voice.
Yeah.
Or if your voice doesn't fit the narrative, you will get demonized. That's where I was at. My voice would not necessarily fit the narrative. And I think we've just lost this ability to hear each other out. There are these varied feelings and experiences. The way we relate to certain things in life is all very different. We live in this point of time where you get cancelled if you're not saying the right thing, or if your story doesn't fit the narrative, and I just think that's really sad. I think it's really unhealthy. I think we need to find compassion, and we need to find patience and safety, share where we're at, or if it's not about us or about something that we see in the world, and to still find that common ground, even if our points are coming from different angles. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I don't know. I find that really, I guess that's a disappointment. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's exactly what I feel disappointed at, because the thing that I loved when I moved here was I'd lived for 20 years in Brighton and was surrounded by an echo chamber who all were right at the forefront of liberal ideals and political correctness and pushing boundaries. And it was brilliant, but we were all on the same page. And then to move here and be in amongst a community where we've got billionaires to bin men and sun readers to all of the different types of people that are not people I've had any interaction with for 20 years. And we all get on, and we all love the island, and we all love living with each other, and we look after each other. And yeah, I'm one of the island weirdos, but that's fine. I was back in Essex as well, and I'm used to that. But just to be part of that world, like, we all love each other and we're all each other's weirdos, that's fine. When it starts feeling like there's shit stirring going on and manipulation of the situation, you're like, why are you doing this? Because if we work together, then we're going to be a beacon of light in what is otherwise a really dark world. Whereas actually what it feels like is the poison seeping in here and it's turning things here. And I just want to try and fight that somehow. And it does feel like if you can do it in your little pixel, then that should affect the bigger picture. But it's how to do it without making your life a misery.
I hear you. I hear you.
We'll do another card. If you enjoy this podcast, then please consider supporting me on Patreon, which is patreon.com/Jolie Rose. It's a way that I would love to earn a living on this tiny little rock. And I was talking today to someone where I was saying, yeah, I managed to live as an artist for 20 years. She'd gone to ballet school, and we're talking about how hard it is to carve out a career in the arts. Even if you're an amazing ballet dancer and you do really well at ballet school, doesn't mean you're going to get a career. And she hadn't ended up with a career as a dancer. And I said, well, yeah, I managed to eke out a career as a performing artist for 20 years. She said, oh, congratulations. And I was like, yeah, then I moved to SOC. And now I'm a barmaid. And I'm not. I said I'm moving into writing more and doing the podcast. And I absolutely love doing this. And if I could make this work as a full-time job, that would be incredible, because it takes time to do. It wouldn't just be this. It'd be this and writing. And, you know, I put out lots of offerings for people to enjoy, including the moon ceremonies and my video blogs and articles that I put in the Guernsey Press. I hold women's circles here on the island. On the whole, I try to make my offerings available for free so that anyone can join. There are things that I do charge for, but the majority of the work I put out is for free. And I do this so that it can be accessible to everybody. And therefore, if you have got some surplus funds, which I know increasingly people have less and less of, I totally appreciate that. But if you do have just £3 a month, like you would buy me a coffee to say thank you for the podcast, then you can support me over at Patreon with just the £3 a month tier. There's also a £9 a month tier where you get the videos for the podcast. And today's podcast's video is great. Nessi's so expressive. It's actually really fun to watch. I enjoy watching them. So you can pay a bit extra and get the videos. But I also put up other content, and you get discounts on my workshops and the things that I do charge for. And you get the lovely warm glow of knowing that you're putting things out for other people. That means that they get things for free and get to enjoy them for free. I also have some other offerings that are coming up, which include Beltane on Saturday the 3rd of May. And this is not free during the day, but by donation. And that money goes to the Professor Saint Fund, which covers our costs for our prescriptions here on the island. And the evenings, it's £35 to come along, and that's to cover the costs of the bands and for all of the lovely things that we put on for you. It's a brilliant day. We burn a wicker man, we have Morris dancing, we have maypole dancing, and it's just such a wonderful celebration of the island at her finest, covered in bluebells and three-cornered little white flowers that look like snowdrops. The whole island is alive. I've been swimming every day this week. It is glorious. So do come if you're able to. It's worth travelling for. It's worth travelling from the UK for. Highly recommend it. It is such a special day. So that's on Saturday the 3rd of May. Tickets still available, although we are running low. And then we have the Kooky Club on the 24th of April, which got a very exciting surprise guest. I always love it when I find out who the surprise guest is. I'm looking forward to this one a lot. And you can get the tickets for that on Eventbrite Kooky Club. That's for Guernsey folk. And then my offering that is available for anyone, anywhere, is the Which Fool Are You course that starts at the end of May. This is the deepest work that I do, supporting people to find their archetype. And I can't really get across how nourishing this work is and what a benefit it has been to my life. I realised that too much choice made me a bit depressed, and I didn't really know what I was doing and where I was going. And by having the blueprint of your archetype, it's not that it takes away the choice, because you can do whatever you want, but it gives you a blueprint for what your textures are, what your colour schemes are, what your season is, what your outfits are, what's the lineage that you're part of. And it just gives you permission to fully own that. And I have found that incredibly useful. And I do thoroughly enjoy it. And I have planets that are mine. And so when movements in the planets and in astrology are happening, it feels like they're talking to me specifically because I feel connected to that planet. It just gives me a bit of guidance in what is otherwise complete nonsense and chaos and hurling through space on a lump of rock. Is it any of it true? I don't care. It's whatever gets you through the night, eh? So you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. And this is the glitter that I have rolled my life in. I am a sparkly pool. So that's my final offer. And now back to the show.
Let's bring it out.
Yeah. Let's see what we get next. Okay. This is the Knight of Swords. So this is an air sign, which is to do with thinking and ideas, but it's very swift. So it's almost like a dragonfly. So what feels inspiring you and cutting through the nonsense at the moment? Like he's got his sword out and he's just able to cut through anything that's holding him back. Sort of the opposite of disappointment, really, where it feels like you're flying.
I guess using my art, really. I was getting very emotional about what was happening last year. My husband was like, put it into your art, because you can just find yourself in this endless pit of opinions and dark forces or whatever. And it's just like, whenever you feel something, use it. Put your art there. Bring your art into the picture. So I guess that's my inspiration, and that's helping me get out of this kind of intense mind maze.
It's what worked for you in the first place, isn't it? It's what helped you in the first place.
You know, it's funny because exactly that, and I forget.
We all do.
Like, oh yeah.
God, I love doing yoga every morning.
Yeah. That's why I love writing a song. You know, it's funny how we can be on this path for so many years and yet I can still be forgetful. Because I can get so distracted from all the nonsense in life. I can get so triggered about certain things. My mission right now is to stop putting that energy out, where it's like all these leakages, and then focus it in and turn it into something poetic and beautiful. Turn that pain, frustration and grief into poetry, art and music. Maybe what I create in the near future might not necessarily touch anybody in the same way the last album did. But I don't care, actually. To be honest, when I wrote that album anyway, it was for me. I never write for an audience. That's never like on my kind of priority list. Of course, I want people to love my music. I would be lying if I didn't say that. I want people to love what I do. But I just need to be true to myself and stay with my authenticity. And maybe people might not enjoy that. But for me, I think that's what's helping me with the sword swifting.
It sounds like it. Yeah, absolutely. My theatre practice is a full. And we always put it in the play. And it is that thing of, that's why art is so wonderful, is it stops it being the drama in your life and you take it and you put it into your artwork and then it's a healing and then it's gold. That's why we're alchemists. We're turning that lead into gold. And we've got that ability to do that. If you haven't got that, then you're just filling your life with drama all day long and it festers. And so it's a really wonderful thing.
I see that with my dad, bless him. Like, he's in his 80s and he listens to 2 radio stations at the same time. He's got LBC, like, banging in one ear, and then he's got, I don't know, BBC World News in the other ear. He can be, bless him, he can be, like, really, like, negative about things. And I just think if he was able to put his energy in, because he was an artist at one point, he's very artistic. I think for all of us, really, whenever we have this pent-up energy, just put it into something creative. It doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be painting. It can be like making a meal, being in your garden and arranging the flower bed, or just using our hands, being in nature, or getting out of the head and out of this field that just wants to suck you up and distract you and throw you into all these imaginary distractions.
Absolutely. It's the great distractor. The great distractor is the absolute enemy and is the commodity that they're trying to get us to buy into constantly. The more we're being distracted by scrolling, radio or whatever it is, we're consuming. And the more we're doing that, they're slipping in their narrative. There's a narrative that we're being fed, and then there is, and this is the music we listen to, and this is the things that we buy, and this is the food that you eat, and anything that's outside of that is what is that. It exists just as much as anything else does, but it's not being talked about in the mainstream media, and so you've not heard of it, but it doesn't mean it's not any more part of reality than anything else is.
We've got to keep our beady eyes on that.
I know, and it is constant. You know, I'm always trying to make myself use my phone less and everything. It's a constant thing.
If I wasn't needing my social medias for my music, I would be out of it.
Yeah,
I would literally
too.
delete all my apps. I need it.
Yeah.
And it's okay, I've got to manage this really carefully. And I'm not always managing it carefully. I can waste my time significantly.
Yeah. It's amazing anyone gets anything done, to be honest.
Oh, God.
Here we go.
Okay. Alrighty.
Got death, the transformation card. It's the best card, isn't it? Yeah, it's my favourite card in the deck. Excellent. What does that mean to you?
I feel like I've been going through a death linked to this situation that we've been going through. A lot of what we held on to has died, which has brought up a lot of grief, because there was many things that I could really find myself in, like my community and my tribe. And because of this tragedy that we went through, it was like all of that, it went with it somehow. I haven't really met the rebirth of it yet. I feel like I'm still in the mud. I'm in this space of even like all the things. I feel like I've become quite cynical, and I don't want to lose my sense of wonder in life or being connected to something greater than myself. I've been really in this kind of, I don't know what the word is, to reshuffle things and see where I'm sitting in life at the moment, what resonates and where I need to cultivate. Like, I'm going back to Pachamama in a couple of weeks, actually. There's a thing called the spirit dance, which is like a 4-night ceremony. I don't know so much about it, but I like all that witchy stuff, you know? And I feel like I've lost...
Yeah, how did that come across your path?
Because I used to live in Pachamama, And it was like a mystery school. I think that's the best way to describe it. It's like a mystery eco village.
Mm.
And I did the moon dance for 3 years, which is, I think it originated from Mexico. And we had a grandmother that taught us this ritual. You're basically dancing underneath the moon for 4 nights and singing songs. I was on the drum for 4 nights, and you sleep in the day. You're dancing and praying to the moon and in your witchy gear.
Well, that sounds so cool.
No, it's amazing. They do. The moon dance is also in Switzerland now. My friend brought it to Switzerland, and it's very special. I'm very connected to that world, but I've also lost connection to it a little bit. And I don't do that stuff over here. Do you know what I mean? I'm just busy being a mum and taking care of my family. If I'm not at home, I'm on tour. I just need things in my life that take care of me and inspire me. And this theme of death, I feel like really just trying to come out the other side and see what's left behind. I'm not ready to let go of certain things in my life. I think I lost a lot of faith, I guess, a lot. I lost trust in life to some extent. And I'm trying to find my way back. Like, it's like I feel the pull. And maybe there's been many times where I've just ignored those voices. It's such a big part of my life, but I'm learning. I don't know, maybe it's going to show up differently for me.
When you're in the thick of it, that's why it's interesting that you had this guy, because he's going to cut through the clouds and the fog at some point. There's some kind of cutting through. But when you're in the thick of the storm, the storm's your greatest teacher. It always will be. But when you're in the thick of it, you're still learning. You're still trying to, and you can't force it to end quicker. You have to just sit with it until it's finished. And then you look at it from the outside and go, okay, I can make some meaning from that. Like I can find some way of understanding that. But you need for it to fully play out before you can do that.
That middle card makes even more sense now. It's like being in fog and you can't quite see clearly. You get a sense of something familiar, but it feels different. And yeah, so that really resonates what you said there, because that's what I'm in a good place, but there's been this thing we've been dealing with. Writing an album about the grief and everything will be so healing and might not resonate with anybody, but I don't, it's not my purpose, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I just need to write this for my own kind of,
release of everything.
Just to get, release,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're a new mother as well, aren't you? I mean, still in the thick of being a young mum.
She's going to be 6. It's getting easier because back in the day, we were always on the road together. We travelled as a family right up until she started school. And that was actually a perfect time because it was tough for her to be on the road. It's not a holiday, you know. And sometimes people think, wow, you get to see so much of the world. I'm like, I don't see anything.
Yeah.
Like, I see airports, I see venues, I see hotel rooms, but it's not like I'm going on a vacation now for 2 weeks to explore the city that I'm in. When Bodhi was on the road, when we all travelled as a family, it was hard for her to be away from home and not with her friends. But now she's old enough, my husband will stay at home with her if I'm on the road. And yeah, we just always had to adjust our formula accordingly. But I am definitely a new mum to a little doggy, which I'm really excited about. My little dog has just joined our family. She's gorgeous. I was going to have another one, but it didn't really work out that way, and that's okay. I'm actually happy. I don't think Bodhi would want to share me anyway. She's already made it very clear that she's not up for sharing me with anybody. So
that's fair enough. As the final thing, do you have a chaos crusade that you want to share, as something that people could do to break the matrix or just stop themselves from being caught in the distractor way of life?
Whether you think you're creative or not, just use your hands, make something for yourself or your loved ones, make something for your children or be in the garden. I feel like we have these tools. We have our voice, we have our bodies. We have all these incredible kind of mediums that we can work with. And I think there is so much out there that tries to pull us away from our own internal wisdom. And when we really get stuck into something, when I'm in that space and when I'm fully present in that, it's like you get all these downloads and this clarity. Just do something creative, even if you don't think you're creative. Everything's possible, you know?
Yeah, I fully agree. I don't know how I would survive if I hadn't had creative things to do. And it is just going for it and not worrying about how good it is. I think that is the thing, is people feeling like they're meant to be of some quality or standard. And it's like, it doesn't matter, like finger paint, flick paint at a board. Like, it doesn't matter what you're doing. It's just the physical act of doing something that stops you from just sitting and watching telly or scrolling on a phone. Because all you're ever doing is judging, and you're always judging yourself and being critical. And as soon as you just start physically doing things, nothing ever turns out how we imagine it's going to, ever. So there's a freedom there that you have to like learn to embrace, where it's never going to be how you're imagining it.
Absolutely.
I think you should come to Sark and do a recording. It would be wonderful.
I think because it's right on my doorstep. I feel way more intrigued by Sark than I do by Herm. I'm not really feeling Herm these days, but it feels still very magical. And I just feel like if I came for a week or something and brought all my writing stuff, I'm going to give myself a little retreat, have little walks in the morning, stay in a little, I don't know, hotel or whatever is available, get away from my family as much as I love them, and just immerse myself. And also because, again, I find being on an island, I love how dramatic the weather is.
Yeah.
And it's got these strong elements too. And I think like my music's very much connected also to water. If I had to give it an element, it would be the water. And the waters are very diverse because you have the stillness of the water, but you also have the crashing of the waves. And I'm very emotional. I love fiery as well. There can be a bit of fire in my music, but water is like the main element. The emotions, the feelings, and the fact like you walk around Sark and you see the ocean and the cliffs and the vastness of it. I love that.
You can be down on that beach on your own all day long. Like, we're always going skinny dipping, and you've just got that freedom to do whatever you want. So you could sing your heart out to the cliffs and to the sea, and no one would go down there and disturb you. So you'd completely lose yourself doing that. It's great because there's a community there and there's people there for whenever you want to be around people. So at any point I could party all night, every night if I wanted to. There's always something going on. It's actually a problem.
That's cool.
You have to like manage yourself. I thought when I moved here from Brighton, it'd be like, oh, this is really chill. No.
Wow, hilarious.
You can go to an afters. Everyone calls it an afters. You can go to an afters any night of the week, especially if you're willing to host. There'll always be someone who's up for coming back with you. It's also really easy to then go for walks and not see anyone, and completely solitude experience as well. And yeah, I'm a writer and I love writing, and it's just like I'm on a permanent writing retreat here, except that I'm always busy and have a million things that I managed to get myself involved in, but it's perfect for being here.
Do you write more in the winter than you do in the summer?
Big time, yeah. And this winter was really short, and I've now learnt to absolutely adore winters because of that reason. And I feel like I pretty much just had January, and February was gone in a second, and now we're halfway into March, and it just feels like I'm meant to be doing the full-blown being alive and out there doing stuff thing again, and I'm a bit gutted.
My year finished at the end of December. Then I did my online workshop, which always takes me a long time to prepare for. It consumes me for weeks because I'm just dissecting it, and I'm not one of these people that can multitask. I can't be getting on with writing music and then also curating my online workshops. Very much like one thing at a time, get it out, and then I can just dive in and put all my energy into it. Oh man, I'd love to have a few more months of winter because you don't feel guilty if it's sunny outside.
Exactly.
I write better, and my songs are not like summery songs. Do you know what I mean?
Howling wind.
Like shadowy. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally get that. I've got a book that's about to get published, which is really exciting. And then I was starting the second one, which is a real beast, because the first one's just my perspective. Because that's how we had a first connection, was through Ben Christie, who set up the Medicine Festival.
I know Ben.
Yeah.
I used to live next door to him, actually, in
did you?
Brick Lane.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, he helped me to create a pilgrimage up to COP26 in 2021. So I'd walked one on my own in 2020, which is what led me to moving here. In 2021, the COP26 was in Glasgow. And having done one walk on my own, I thought that I somehow had the expertise to be able to lead 26 people across the country and not get killed. Like, great, yeah, I could do
Oh
that.
my God.
And so Ben
Yeah.
somehow found out that I was doing it and got in touch because they'd had some vision of, said, I'll help you, I'll support you to do it. And my favourite sentence ever is, do you want me to activate the druids in the Isle of Wight? I was like, yes, activate the druids. Oh, it's brilliant. And we did 7, because it was called the Spine of Albion, which was the line that we walked up. And we worked out where we felt like the 7 chakra points were along the spine. And we did a ceremony in each place with the local wisdom keepers, whoever the local druids and story keepers were of the land. And yeah, it was amazing. And Sam Lee joined us and Chris Parks. And
Sam Lee's a really dear friend.
Yeah, he's
on my album. He sings on Diamonds and Demons.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, he's an absolute darling. Yeah, I've known him a really long time. We did, because I'm part of this Tudor reenactment, which is the reason why I moved here, is someone who worked at the Tudor reenactment with me came here as a horse and cart driver. Do you know the Rex? Do you know the band the Rex? Do you know Ash?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
He's got little dreads.
Yeah. So it's his partner.
I don't know him personally.
Know who he is.
But I know who he is. Yeah.
So it's his partner, an old friend of mine from this Tudor reenactment. And so I've grown up doing Mama's Plays, which is folk theatre. And so that was part of what we were doing as we walked up the line. But Sam Lee was part of Cecil Sharp House in London, where they collected folk music and folk stories. And we did Mama's Plays there like in our 20s. So yeah, quite a long time ago now, 20 years ago.
That's amazing.
I've known him for ages. It's been great watching his career
unfold
as well.
Yeah.
He's doing amazing
amazing. I've known Sam probably like 15 years. It's when I left Costa Rica and then I moved to England. And he had Ness Collective, and I think I played at one of his events. But he's a really dear friend, and I love him very much. He does the Nightingales event
it's wonderful.
as well. It's very special.
Yeah, he's such a kind soul. Yeah, I'm hopefully going to interview him at some point as well. He said that he's up for doing it.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah.
Nice. Oh, I'll tell him that I've had a nice little chat with you.
Thank you so much for your workshop. It was so beautiful. I loved it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed it as well, actually. Like, I get so stressed before a workshop. I think it's just because I feel like I'm in the hands of technology. Yeah. It's such a large group of women. God, just please behave.
Yeah, that's how I feel about this. Just really annoying. Technology's a bastard.
I know. Glad you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was wonderful. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Thank you.
And I was an emotional wreck, but yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh, I love it though. I love to make it really dynamic. Do you know what I mean? For me, it's not just going, right, okay, let's just open our voice.
No.
And go, it's like how to weave in the magic and all these different mediums and art to make it a bit more juicy.
Yeah. I like the idea of the ayahuasca because I've done ayahuasca twice and they've both been incredibly profound experiences. And the second time, I had this real desire to sing, but it just cannot do it. I find it so hard to sing in public, and I could feel my throat and my voice were desperately trying to just sing. I was in a place where I just didn't feel, the place was great. The people I was with, I felt safe with.
Yeah.
But there was lots of people and they were very talented and musical. And yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if I could take ayahuasca on my own and just go sing to the cliffs, but that sounds really dangerous. But yeah, it's an interesting idea.
I mean, it definitely contributed to where my voice is now. And I think I've spoken to quite a few people that it's just ignited this creative, in terms of music. There is something so profound. It's happened to me like a number of times on ayahuasca, and I've done many ceremonies, but maybe a handful of times where I've had this very special and unique experience where I'm opening my mouth and it's literally like, it's obviously my voice, but there's something else coming through the voice. Yeah. And it's almost like you're like, oh my fucking God.
Totally.
You know, like you're in awe and you just can't believe, which is also one of the reasons meeting with the spirit of your voice, which is the subtitle of my workshops. That was also an inspiration for it, because it was this feeling of the spirit of the plant coming through my voice, and I was just literally being available and being this channel. It doesn't surprise me that you felt this need or impulse to sing.
Big time.
And I've also heard a lot of people say that in general, when they're with the medicine, they don't freak out as much as they do when in day-to-day life. I guess it just softens you, and you're in a different place, you know, and so that brings a different quality to how you're bringing your voice to the moment.
Totally.
It's not like a performance.
Yeah.
I really hear what you're saying, and I'm not surprised that you felt that.
Yeah, I was literally fighting it back, which is silly. I should have just done it. But I have had my voice be clear and beautiful twice. I've had that experience of it being from another place. Once when I was at drama school, because we had to sing in public then. And it was almost like the emotional intensity of just doing. I just did it. And everyone cried their eyes out. I knew how big a deal it was for me to be doing it. And they were like, that was something else that sang then. And it was beautiful. And then I knew I could do it. But then it never came back. And then I had a massage once that dislodged something in my throat, and suddenly I had a voice. My singing voice was there in a way that it isn't normally. And then at the end of the last pilgrimage we did, there's this statue of Artemis, which we sang Savage Daughter to the statue at the end of this pilgrimage. And all of us, our voices just rang out, and tears streaming down our faces. And that was a beautiful moment. So I know it's possible.
I can imagine from just hearing your speaking voice, I can sense that there's a lot of power in your voice. And sometimes, like, there's many, I don't know, I think a good practice, maybe, like something for you to, sorry, this is not, you haven't asked for this, but I just feel inclined to maybe share it with you. But I think, like, dropping this kind of idea that our voice needs to be pretty and beautiful. Like, even just spending like 5 minutes a day with yourself and purging whatever wants to come out. Not being afraid of sounds that feel not beautiful, or if it's feeling rusty and croaky. And it's like, we have to also embody that part of ourselves as well. Do you know what I mean? To embody and be familiar with the guttural part of our voice and the raspy, hoarse part of our voice. To give space to all those different layers. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like just from speaking to you, I can sense that there's a real richness there. Maybe it's something that we need to do. And I say we, because it's also something I need to do for myself, is giving myself that time. I'm not talking about practicing, because practicing is just dry. And we need to cultivate that relationship. It's not something that we can pick up and put down with massive gaps in between, but just be like, I'm going to offer my voice today. I'm going to offer my voice and give it 5 minutes. Even maybe record yourself on your phone, or offer my voice to my beloved, or finding something that helps us to be in service. And maybe that's why also when you talk about what you did in this little ceremony with all the women, it's like you're offering it to it comes with a different quality, because it's not about you. It's not coming, and it's like we can somehow bypass all those voices in our head that tell us that we're not good or it's shit or whatever our story is. The moment we come from a place of being in service, it brings a different quality. And if those little voices do come in and start to create this tension, then sing the resistance. Sing the murkiness and the fucked up voices that are like telling us that, oh, yes, you know, like make, you know, like be playful with it. And maybe you do this already, so forgive me. If
No,
like...
I fully get what you're saying, and I agree with this, because it is what I can feel has happened when it has come through. It was the emotion that was leading rather than the head. It was because I was being in service of something that meant more than the story, like the head story. Yeah.
I think this always helps me, even when I'm doing big gigs and stuff, because you can get pretty overwhelmed when you're seeing many people in the audience, and it's like, right, I'm in service to something, and I put my intention there. It just helps me drop away from my head. It's not to say that I don't go there. I judge myself. I can easily criticize my expression and my voice, but coming back to the heart and coming from that place of service brings a very different energy, and it takes the focus away from how we sound, but giving it like a child. It's not about technique. I think sometimes people can be really spot on with technique, but they're lacking soul and this extra ingredient that just moves you. It's like when you hear a kid sing a song and maybe they're not singing it perfectly in tune, but you feel the sincerity of the moment and you're taken by how much they are connected to that moment and how much they're giving themselves so fully with totality. And that's what grabs you. And I think if we can learn from that, and I think it is that cultivation and taking care that we don't just pick it up one day and then don't tend to it for the whole month. It's all of a sudden, it's a relationship. It's something that we need to tend to and build a connection with patience and compassion and gentleness. And if those harder emotions do come to the surface, the judgments, then to sing that or to voice that and to, it doesn't even have to be beautiful. We need to drop this kind of idea that things have to be beautiful all the time. Sometimes we just need 5 minutes of sounding completely nuts to wade through all the stuff that we've collected. Like you said, we carry wounds that aren't even ours. Do you know what I mean? Like our lineage, if we think of all the women that came before us, and especially from the witch trials, there was this experiment about a couple of years ago. They did it on mice. I can't remember, they gave little electric shocks to mice, and then those mice had babies. It was to the smell of cherry.
That's right, I've heard of this. Yeah, so they kept electrocuting them with the smell. Yes.
Yeah, and so when those mice had babies and they smelt cherry blossom, it would give them the same reaction, even though they had not lived and
never been electrocuted.
They had never been electrocuted. So I think about that as women, and how we are carrying hundreds of years of oppression and things that the women before us may have carried. And so the blocks that we feel, or the fear around expression and this witch wound that you spoke about, I feel like can be very connected to that. It's not even ours. I mean, that's why we need to do the work as well, to clean it so that we can create a new story and a new narrative for what goes ahead.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Got a little workshop there.
There you go, babe.
Cheers, darling. No, I love it.
All right.
It was so wonderful. That's what was so beautiful about being in your workshop. It was coming from that place, and that speaks so much more to me than technique. And with fooling as well, that's exactly what fooling is. The fooling is theatre, but without this is a certain technique, this is Stanislavski, this is breath. It's all about emotion, and it's about putting it in the play, and it's improvising, and it's working with archetypes, and it's the theatre department of what you're talking about. And it's really powerful and wonderful, and love it.
Yeah,
so you're speaking my language. Thank you, my darling.
Yeah, baby.
Yay.
All right, babe.
Okay, well, thank you, love. I shall see you soon, and I look forward to seeing you in person.
Thank you, my love.
Bye-bye.
Darling. Thank you.
Bye. How awesome was Nessi? I feel like I've met a soul family connection in meeting Nessi. She's someone that I am instantly at ease with, would very happily sit in a cafe and chat to for hours over a slice of cake. And I'm not that good at close. I'm a far person, really good at far. I had no problem whatsoever with getting on the stage at Boomtown and talking to tens of thousands of people. Well, I didn't talk actually, but my words were on the screen, but I was performing in front of tens of thousands of people. And that is less scary to me than it is to go and meet someone in a cafe and sit close to them and do eye contact. I think I'm slightly on the spectrum, ever so slightly. One of me isms, as my dear friend Little Grace puts it. What's your isms? I definitely have a bit of an ism of some description, and I find close really difficult. But being close to Nessi didn't feel at all difficult, and she feels like a soul family connection, and I'm really looking forward to spending time with her. I can't recommend her workshop enough. It was extraordinary, and I'm still feeling the repercussions of it reverberate through my life. My voice feels stronger and more connected. It was such a warm, nourishing, supportive space, and I definitely will do more. I would love to go do a workshop with her in person. She does in-person retreats. Just absolutely can't get enough of her. Her music's amazing, she's amazing, her workshops are amazing. So if you don't already know Nessi's work, then tune in, get involved, you'll not regret it. It's absolutely beautiful. I highly recommend putting on Nessi, learning her songs, getting used to her songs, and then singing along with them, because we did that at the start of the workshop, and it's a great voice warm-up, vocal warm-up, because she's so emotionally connected in her singing, it's a great place to start for then, like she says, singing and honouring whatever it is you want to honour that day. That is a brilliant exercise. I feel like that's a Chaos Crusade in its own right, to sing. I keep talking about with several guests, the Sami tribe with the yoiks, singing to the forest and singing to the wind. I think that you could warm up with Nessi songs and tune into where she's reaching into within herself and her connection to the natural world, and then go for a walk in the forest and just sing to the forest, and that would be your creative act for the day, in devotion to the beauty of the land that you're walking through. And I am blessed over here with Sark, because that's just, it's showing off over here, it is. So I'm going to go crack on with doing that, go for a walk and enjoy this beautiful island and sing to it, Nessi Gomes style. So thanks, Nessi, that was wonderful. Thank you, darling listener, for being here. I hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you again next week. See you at the end on.